we know that the Canaanites were a mixed race of people. The Bible tells us that they had giants among them. They also had people that were half man, half beast. They were quite a mixed lot. That is one of the reasons why the Lord said that he will destroy them off the face of the earth. And that's exactly what the Father did. And so, even though we went on expeditions with them, the commandment of the Lord was to erase these abominations from off the face of the earth. Now, not all the Canaanites were not human or giants. I'm pretty sure that some of them were quite human. And those who remained that were not destroyed were assimilated within the local populations that they lived in. When we go back to what I was saying before about the way civilization spread, we'll understand that the Canaanites were ultimately driven off the lands of the Americas almost entirely. But they left their mark. They left the pyramids. And we can tell from the scale and the size of the pyramids and the technology that was used that the builders could have been something other than the way we understand human beings to be today. When we look at Africa again and we consider how civilization spread, then you will see that all of these colonies that were established along the western coast of Africa would eventually become nations, and they would eventually become nations of Israel. And so what you would have is all over the globe, wherever the Lord drove the house of Israel, they multiplied exceedingly. And in fact, the Lord's prophecy came true. He said that the children of Israel would be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. He said that we would be as the stars of heaven. Basically, he said that we would number in the billions. And in fact, if he said that we would number into billions, surely little tiny Israel cannot hold billions of people. We did number in the billions, but we did so by colonizing the entire world, not just Africa, not just the Americas, but the entire world. The reason why Africa is important is because it helps us to understand our situation in America. And so what happened in 1492, when Europe was able to leave Europe to go and conquer the rest of the world, in 1492, there were billions of people in the Americas and billions of people in Africa. And what he found was the nations of Israel that were along the coast were trading and traveling back and forth with the nations in the Americas. And they were, in fact, brothers. The rule of 70 is a mathematical tool that is used to help us determine how long it takes for a given quantity to grow at a certain rate. For example, if you have $100 in the bank and it's earning 5% interest rate, using the rule of 70, you can calculate how long it will take for your $100 to turn into $200. Now, the rule of 70 turns out to be very interesting. If you look at the Bible, you'll see that it was 70 children of Israel who went into Egypt. And then 215 years later, the 70 became 2 million. Using the rule of 70, we can calculate exactly what percentage growth rate would be needed in order for 70 to become 2 million. And it turned out, if I remember, something about 7% or so. Well, the rule of 70 can be applied all over the world. If you consider that during the Assyrian invasion, Israel was destroyed, and during the Babylonian invasion, Judah was destroyed, a lot of the Israelites eventually made it to the Americas in ships. Well, if you apply the rule of 70 with just 2 people over the course of 2100 years, from 600 BC to the time of Columbus, 1492 AD, you will find that 2 people can grow into almost 2 billion in 2100 years. How many people would 70 turn into in 2100 years? Let's go back to the original example, the children of Israel. They started out at 70, and in 215 years, they became 2 million. Well, if they start out at 2 million, how many people would they become in another 200 years? And so you see, by the time that Columbus came to the Americas, the inhabitants of the Americas had grown into the billions. The inhabitants of Africa surely would have grown into the billions. In fact, when they reached the island of Haiti, it was estimated, Haiti, it was estimated that 15 million people lived in the island of Hispaniola. They wrote that it was so densely populated that it was as if God had packed all of humanity into one area. In 50 years, the 15 million turned into 200,000. 14,800,000 men, women, and children were raped, ravaged, destroyed by every mean, by every abomination that you can imagine. Surely the Americas had over 2 billion people. Surely Africa and Asia each had over 3 billion people. So you can imagine what I am talking about. You can imagine the carnage, and you can imagine the need to lie. You can imagine the need to distort history, to suppress history.